Thank you guys for joining us. We're so excited to be here and so excited to tell our story. First of all, I want to introduce my fellow panelists. My name is Naveed Siddiqi. I'm a technology partner here at Bell. I've got Michael Williams, who's the account executive at Microsoft, Matt Holvey, manager of intelligence systems at Bell, Kevin Kalkwarf, Cloud Solutions Director at Microsoft, Marvin Garcia, Cloud Solutions Architect at Microsoft, and Bristow, who's the technical lead for intelligence systems at Bell. Gentlemen, how are we liking CES so far? We having fun?
Love it.
Living the dream.
Love it.
It's been a wild ride.
Well, Bell is so excited and so thrilled to be back here. This is our third straight CES. And this is just another opportunity to write another chapter in our CES story. Of course, in 2018, we unveiled the air taxi cabin experience. Last year, we unveiled the hybrid electric Nexus. And this year, not only do we have another member of the Nexus family with the 4EX, but we also have this incredible Nexus City, which is our vision for how Bell Mobility as a Service and Bell AerOS is going to integrate into the city of the future. And we're so excited to tell the story of really how this came together and how Bell and Microsoft worked together to make this drone demonstration and these drone flights a reality. And so, guys, when I think about how this idea went from a concept to a reality, I think it really starts way before someone had the idea pop into their head, right? It really starts with the culture changes at both of our companies that have allowed us all to explore these radical new ideas. And so on that, Mike, I'll start with you and the Microsoft team. Can you talk about the culture change over the last few years at Microsoft? Because now you guys are really stressing empowering customers, whereas before, I know from an enterprise and IT perspective, it was really Microsoft is seen as a vendor to sell software.
Sure. Yeah, so Microsoft's been on this journey around growth mindset. And I know there's a number of you that are familiar with this concept of growth mindset, but it's something that we've not only been adopting internally, but it really comes into play when you get into these large, very complex opportunities where you really have to keep your mind open and to the possibilities that your customer wants to drive. And our customers have some pretty ambitious things they want to accomplish, like urban air mobility. And so it really comes in handy, some of the training that we've gotten around growth mindset, because it really just helps us orchestrate better together and collaborate with our customers. So,
Well, I've been at Microsoft for a bit over 2 years, and since I got there, it was very clear to me that this growth mindset, we take it to the core. I basically get paid to go and learn every day to be able to serve my customers better, and we don't take anything for granted. Whatever idea that comes in, we take it, we challenge ourselves, we keep growing and exploring things even if they haven't been done before. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. I just echo those 2 points to say, we consider ourselves fortunate to be in an environment when Satya came into Microsoft, he really pushed that idea, like you said, Naveed, of empowerment. Right. And you and I had a conversation very early on of our goal for Microsoft is to watch our customers on stage showing off a complex strategic vision and being able to sit in the background and say, we help make that possible. And in order to do that, it requires a very different mindset. It requires, to Mike's point of the growth mindset, you have to collaborate together, and it's just beyond a day-to-day, but it's nights and weekends and free time, and how are you conceptualizing and understanding Bell's problems? Because it is, when you first introduced us to this, we weren't sitting around thinking about that idea on our own, but as soon as you describe it, you can take a hold of it, understand it, and you want to go on that journey with you. And so for us, it's just a great opportunity to say, you don't talk about technology for technology's sake, but you look at technology to help to solve those big, complex problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Naveed, I kind of want to follow up on that question a little bit with Matt and just say, like you mentioned, you've been at CES for a couple of years now, and so 2 years ago, Bell set out to be more than just a helicopter company. You wanted to be a technology company that was redefining flight. So help us understand, what did you mean by that?
Well, and that's actually an excellent question, because I think at its heart, when we start talking about Bell wants to be a technology company, we didn't know necessarily at the time, what does that mean? We go on this journey to explore what that means. I remember all the way back in the beginning, I'd say, when Grant, my technical lead, and Naveed and I, we got together, we put our heads together. This is before I met you guys at Microsoft, and we said, okay, here's the new world for Bell. We're a technology company. What do we want to do? And in a very short order, we went from, let's think about this, to let's reach out and engage with Microsoft, to now we're here in really just a year or less, showcasing an entirely new product in the digital space, something Bell's never done before.
It's really tremendous how the CES story for Bell has grown so much, and the story around this idea of digital infrastructure, which we'll get into in a little bit, has really blossomed into what we're unveiling here and what we're talking about here today. And of course, Matt, you and I were both here at CES last year, and we saw just how tremendous the excitement was and the incredible engagement we had. I'm pretty sure we had thousands of people coming by the booth every single day when we unveiled the Nexus hybrid electric model. And we were all kind of thinking in the back of our heads, and when we went back, we all asked that million-dollar question of how on earth are we going to top that? And so can you talk about how this idea of real drones flying in a cityscape really came from and how it progressed?
So I'll say the drone scenario that we see here today at CES stemmed from a mandate that I put on you and Grant, right? Because when we matured this idea of, hey, Bell needs a digital backbone, a fleet management system, the aerospace operating system, if you will. I wanted it more than just a software demonstration, and we didn't have a fleet of aircraft just to go fly and test. And so my mandate to Grant and Naveed is, if we go down this journey, I want to go down this journey with real aircraft flying. I want to have a fleet of drones flying in a hangar somewhere. I don't care if there's wires hanging off of them. They don't have to look pretty, right? But we're just going to demonstrate a very real-world demonstration. And of course, then our CES showcase team catches wind that we're doing some interesting things with drones, and now we're here doing, our hangar is literally the world stage, so to speak. So definitely they put the pressure on us, but that's kind of how that journey went, and it's been pretty wild.
That's a great point, and the innovation team that Matt, Grant, and I get to be a part of every day is really charged with exploring the next generation of technologies for Bell and maturing it, and this was just another step in that. Where we've been such a pioneer, Bell has, in aircraft technology. But this is kind of a paradigm shift when we start talking about digital technologies. And as we were looking at the market and the projections of the market for on-demand mobility, there were several pillars, and the air vehicle was just one of them. And it was all really being tied together by this digital infrastructure, this digital backbone. And that's where that challenge from you came, and it's led to where we are today. And it's really been a shift for Bell in expanding our horizon and thinking about the entire ecosystem rather than just one pillar and the air vehicle. So I want to turn it over to the Microsoft guys now. So we had this idea internally. We were kind of incubating it. When we first introduced it to you all, be honest, what was your reaction when we told you about flying drones inside at CES?
Well, I think similar to many of the folks that we've engaged in the booth, we all were like, hey, is this real? I mean, having an aviation background and a natural affinity for technology, watching that come together and this idea really started to, you could feel the energy. I mean, even when we meet, for the most mundane meetings on this topic, there's a good energy in the room and excitement because we all share this enthusiasm for urban air mobility. So, you know, my first reaction was, is this real, and how are we going to pull this off? But you know.
I asked that question quite a bit.
Now, I remember that first meeting, and my first reaction was, wait, is this real? I mean, a helicopter manufacturing company now wants to build a digital infrastructure to connect all of the things and vehicles. And so it took me a while to grasp the concept, but as soon as I saw how determined the team from Bell was to accomplish this, I got super excited. And in my mind, I just started putting together all the things that we needed to do and the people that we needed to rile up to get to where we are today. So it was really exciting.
And I'm going to add just a little bit
Yeah.
because back to the question that you'd asked earlier about Bell decided that we're a technology company, and then we went and did technology things, right? Digital technology things. Well, we could approach that two different ways. We could have said we'll be a technology company when we do something other than like a helicopter or a tilt rotor. Or you can decide we're a technology company today, therefore go do, right? And that's what Bell decided to do. We're a technology company right now, therefore go do. Because if you do it the other way around and you say, hey, when we get there, then we'll draw a line and say, now we are a technology company, you might not ever make that a reality, right? And so I think that's an important cultural distinction that kind of flipped a switch for us and empowered us to even have these conversations.
I remember when we first shifted strategy and we unveiled ourselves as a technology company, I think there was a lot of just open-ended definitions across Bell of what does it really mean to be a technology company, right? And I think it really boils down to it's not necessarily about the what, right? It's not necessarily about building the next generation of tilt rotor technology or propulsion design. It's not necessarily about leveraging cloud software or IoT. It's not necessarily about the what. It's about the how. It's about the culture, and it's about really pushing the envelope when it comes to how you engage with partners and what kind of technologies you work on, and really how you position your teams. And so I think the two sides coming together, it was just a very natural partnership that really has blossomed to what we see today.
And I'd add to that for both you and Matt's comments of, to Mike's point, when you first hear this pitch, your eyes get really big and you start thinking around just the infinite possibilities of what exists out there. And then about 2 seconds later, you start thinking, what do I have to do in the next hour to get to that goal, however many years down the road? And for me, I think when I look at the Microsoft side is we sat in a room and we started huddling and thinking this through, because as soon as we talked with Bell, we just saw that you had a strategic vision, but you had the how, and you had every step, and you were thinking through that process, and we said, okay, this is different than just discussing big ideas. This is, we're going to go do this. Do you want to come along for the journey? And that's when it gets really exciting.
I think when I knew that we had made it was after we had surprised even a company like Microsoft, who was just at the cutting edge of technology, right? And when we were constantly touching base, and they were so just not surprised, but so impressed with our progress that we had made in just such a short amount of time. I mean, we started working on this project in July? And we've gotten to this point. So yeah, it really is about culture, and it really is about setting a vision.
Yeah, and so I think just to piggyback off that a little bit, Grant, Matt was talking a lot about the shift of the mindset into the technology company. So you've been up in the tower all week so far. Can you kind of walk us through how this demonstration embodies that vision for Bell?
Sure. So as Bell redefined itself as a technology company, we were challenged to go beyond the vehicles. We go, solution experience centric, not just technology vehicle centric. And one of the big things when you look at ODM as a service, you have to treat these vehicles as part of a larger system of systems. And that's what AerOS is really doing, and that's what we're demonstrating here. It's not each individual vehicle adding value to a community, to a city. It's the fleet as a whole. And you can have the same number of aircraft, the same number of technology, and you can either add significant value or it can be the worst investment you've ever had, and it's how you deploy that fleet. And AerOS, and hopefully we're effectively demonstrating it here, is we can manage those fleet of vehicles and bring the safety that we put into the individual vehicles to that next layer. We talk about the 3 layers of safety, and you're seeing 2 of those demonstrated today, and that is the predictive deconfliction at the fleet level. So there's that AerOS working, predicting where all the vehicles should go, making sure that they are where they need to be and where they shouldn't be. Then you have the second layer, which is more a reactive layer going on, that if for some unknown reason reality doesn't line up with prediction, you have that reactive layer. And sometimes you'll see in the schedule you see here, the drone will pause, stop, and then continue. That means that, hey, the drone took off a little longer. It took something deviated slightly from prediction, and so it corrected itself. And then the third layer would be the onboard layer of the vehicle. The vehicle can if all those other two layers go away, the vehicle can operate an environment just by itself, and that's like detect and avoid, using LiDAR, and some of the other stuff when it comes to autonomous flying.
Yeah. And just to build on that, Matt, you mentioned a little bit earlier of just that shift in mindset from we develop aircraft and helicopters, but into this technology company as a whole. Why was it so important that Bell focus on beyond just the aircraft?
I think Bell recognized a trend really that's globally in all industries. As we go through digital transformation, it's less about the one product that you put together, the one aircraft, for example, that we put together, and it's more about reinventing the ecosystems that these solutions get injected into. So, for example, we're building air taxis, and we're building logistics drones. But the drone itself isn't enough. When we talk about safety, for example, it's not just the safety of the aircraft, although that's prime for Bell, but the safety of the scheduling operations, the safety of the maintenance prediction. So you're talking about this system of systems, and you have to shore up all of the safety measures together. And so when Bell says that they're a technology company, we're recognizing that it's more than just an aircraft solution, that we have to explore the entire ecosystem, and then that's, of course, what we've done.
So guys, let's really dive deep into the technology. And of course, we're talking about Bell AerOS here, which is Bell's cloud digital platform for connected mobility of the future that we believe is going to tie in Bell's mobility as a service throughout the ecosystem in the cities to come in the future. So Grant and Marvin, you guys have been kind of the architects behind this. When we talk about AerOS, we talk about cloud native. It's built on Microsoft Azure. It's leveraging a lot of really powerful technologies, a lot of powerful services. We're talking about IoT. We're talking about virtual networks, which add another layer of security. We're talking about an extensible API. What are some of the highlights and technologies that stand out to you about Bell AerOS?
All right, I'll go first. So we actually, if you had to time when to become a technology company, it was a good time. There's so much software as a service or these new technologies that make connectivity and getting hold of data, and that's really the crux of the matter here, is how do we take data and turn that data into value for our customers. And so the cloud solution is one really good one where we can leverage someone like Microsoft who's going to ensure security, safety, extensibility, and we can take that, know and trust that Microsoft will continue to grow that and build on top of it, focus specifically for Bell. And as Microsoft infuses new technology, we have that access immediately, and we can deploy it to our customers at much higher rates than before. And then the big one would be is the IoT, and not to sling buzzwords around, but it's that Internet of Things. It's how do drones talk to other drones, how do vehicles talk to other vehicles, how do vehicles talk to other ways we interact with our environment. So just a fun thing, while we're flying the drones here and streaming data, and hopefully we've been able to interact with our tablets, back in innovation, we actually have a virtual reality headset set up, and the rest of the team is actually experiencing CES in real time. Because whether we're here, whether you're in Japan, no matter where you are in the world, you can get access to that data in near real time because of what Microsoft, but what the Internet of Things and its maturity today is empowering us. And that means we can make decisions like never before, because it's not only what is the energy of the battery, what is the cruise speed of the vehicle, but it's how many times that battery's been cycled, what's the wear and tear of the motors and stuff. And you can make decisions based on multimodal or multidisciplinary data sets. And you can make this similar to us as humans. We don't make decisions based on one factor. We're always evaluating multiple factors, and we make the best decision. And that's what AerOS will be able to empower us to do.
Marvin?
Well, from the technology standpoint, this is a beautiful and exciting project. So on the cloud side, from the beginning, we knew that there were a couple of things that we needed to make this successful. Things like speed, cloud and device security, both of them, resiliency, device autonomy, and we started peeling those layers, and I mean, through all the meetings and conversations we had every week, I loved the way that Bell team approached with this naive approach of, we don't know much about cloud, but we want to do this. Let's figure out all the possible ways. Let's not say this is a way that it has been done before, or this is the way that IT does it normally. Let's think out all the best and possible ways that we can tackle these problems. So from the security standpoint, from the connectivity standpoint, it was a real challenge because a lot of things, like Ron just said, were there, but some of the things we had to bring Microsoft research teams to do security, cloud networking, visualization, simulation. So for example, can we put the feed up, please? So things like, right now we're looking at a live feed in a simulated environment from the device's digital twins. That's something that came together thanks to Microsoft research through a customer like Bell asking for things like this. And then we got the smart people building things like this, just waiting, creating for someone to come in and say, I want to build this. And it was like, I got you. So then it's a challenge. I mean, we're still innovating, we're still figuring out problems and finding solutions. But from the technological standpoint, it's amazing.
What's been so awesome for me to experience in this entire engagement is that as the word got around at Microsoft, and I think you guys were big kind of communicators in that, just how excited the other teams at Microsoft have gotten and wanted to engage with us, like Project Socrates, AirSim, and Bonsai. And now here we are, and we've engaged with them, and we've got this incredible showcase that supplements our showcase and still leverages the same AerOS platform that we've been working on for the last several months. And so I think that's a great point, Marvin. All right, Kevin, I'm going to quiz you here for a second. Hopefully you've done your homework. We talk about IoT, right? And Microsoft is a big investment in IoT. Can you tell me the number of dollars that Microsoft has invested in IoT over the next 5 years?
Can I pull my wallet?
Publicly, we'll say $5 billion.
So $5 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what does that say about IoT's role in the Microsoft strategy? And also, how is that investment going to be realized over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so this is a great example here today, right? We have this simulated city environment where we have aircraft flying around, and as Marvin, Naveed, I think we've all kind of talked about this. Grant, you hit a lot, which is the sheer amount of data coming off one of these aircraft in just a demonstration here. And then you start to multiply that by the actual Nexus platform, the number of aircraft you want to have in each urban, suburban environments. And you start to understand that IoT in itself is a small piece of the larger puzzle for us, which, as Microsoft, we lay out the idea of the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. And you basically have to create this seamless environment where you can share that information. In order to get real-time insights, real-time feedback, and analytics, you have to be able to run more of that information right on the edge, as close as you can. And so when you think about the personalization features you see out here, you can think about retail industry, transportation. It's across the board we're seeing this repetition, but really it's around how do we get more artificial intelligence, machine learning, our cognitive services and other capabilities out to the edge to be able to process it quicker. And so for us, it's that unique opportunity if we start tying all these pieces together. So IoT is that one part to help make the edge more intelligent. But then, as Marvin pointed out, then we start bringing in the AirSim and a lot of our Microsoft research teams and tying in that work together, including projects like Bonsai in the future. And so you start to think it's kind of a piece of IoT is a fun buzzword we like to use, but what are the use cases and what are the problems we're trying to solve with that technology? And that's really the heart of it. And so to your point, there's the information, the data that we get back, and the decisions that we can help drive are endless, regardless of the amount we spend on it.
And if you guys are playing buzzword bingo in the audience, please turn in your cards after the panel.
I think I hit them all. So, Naveed, I will flip this back to you a little bit, which is, we talked earlier about the sheer size and scope of this transformation for Bell. And it's a constantly shifting technological landscape. It seems like every day we have a different discussion about what's possible and maybe what's not, and then what we want to do next. So as you start to bring this vision together, how are you navigating that entire landscape, and how are you figuring out from Bell who you're going to partner with and go for on this journey?
So that's a great question. And last year I got the opportunity to come to CES, and I was just amazed at the reaction, right, and the level of engagement and the level of excitement that we had. I know I went back to work the next week, and I came back with a stack of business cards, that thick. And so really it came down to, all right, we made this big splash, and we've got this incredible opportunity to engage with a number of different collaborations, right? And so we really needed to get smart around how do we strategically pick and choose which collaborations to engage with and which ones can kind of wait. And so we really leaned on, we're going to continue to lean on our core values, right? And that really starts with safety and quality above all. We talk about that with our aircraft technology, but that's going to extend into our digital technologies as well. When we talk about cybersecurity, when we talk about data privacy, it has to start there. And then we talk about flexibility. We market Bell Nexus and Bell Apt and a lot of our aircraft as being incredibly scalable and incredibly modular in terms of the missions that they can meet out. And we want to position our digital technologies and position AerOS in the same way. We want it to be incredibly modular with our extensible API, which we've already got. We want to create microservices, which we're already doing. And so that's part of that vision. And then the third one is really all around this idea of committed believers. When you ask about partnerships and how we're going to make those decisions, we need people who are as invested from a visionary and a culture perspective as we are in this kind of technology. We need people who are committed believers, who are as excited as we are, who are willing to kind of invest with us from a time perspective and from a development perspective and go down this journey with us. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we really believe that these are the platforms that are going to change the way the world gets around. And so we need committed believers. And so it's really about going back to our core values, and that's going to drive how we make those partnership decisions.
Yeah, and I'd really like to build on what that with Naveed. The success of this specific project and many others out there is really the partnerships and the team of teams that came together. We were successful because the commitment was not because of contract, the commitment because of shared vision. There was a shared vision. It was not because everyone was obligated to do something, but everyone was empowered and aligned with where we wanted to go. And so really motivating the team was not required. Everyone just bought in, drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
So we talk about this, guys, being a multi-year journey. We talk about this being an investment, right? So to the Microsoft team, technology is so fickle, it's changing every day. And how do you balance short-term technology and short-term capabilities while keeping the long-term vision in mind in your partnership with Bell?
Sure. I could take that one. It's the level of orchestration between the short term and long term can be daunting at times, but we've been fortunate because we've had strong support from our leadership and your leadership to open doors for us that we didn't even know we needed that door, right? The interesting thing about it is that we began to use technology that's available, technology that's not commercially available, and then we have this notion of building things that it doesn't exist yet. There's something we're going to need that'll be critical to this project in 2 years that it may not exist right now. So I like Kevin's point around, at least for me in my role, what do I need to do to make Bell successful today? And not get too far out ahead of my skis because things can change very quickly. And helping at least give the appearance that we're super agile and that we can change on the fly because, I mean, as you guys know, just in the short time we've been working together, things change extremely quickly. And what you had planned for 8 months from now might look a little bit different in 2 weeks. So it's a balancing act around how you orchestrate what you need to get done in that moment. What's our next best action?
Just basically what Michael said. So that idea of what can we do to be successful today, how do we solve our problems, and and really a shout out to the Microsoft research teams because they have all these great ideas, and customers like Bell are the ones that are coming with challenges saying, this is my problem, how do I solve it? And that's when we start shaping those things. So we, Microsoft as a company, we have a roadmap, we know where we're heading to, empowering people, giving them means to do things, but translating that into specific actions, it is through the requests of customers and on the bleeding edge with projects like this.
And I would kind of echo back to something that you all pointed out earlier, which we talked a lot about culture. And there's two, I think, key pieces that made this successful for us, which is just that complete trust and transparency, where we just laid our cards on the table. I mean, there were a number of times for Naveed, Matt, Grant, where you said, this is what we're thinking about doing, and this is who we're thinking about doing it with. And we would just have very open, transparent conversations of what's best for Bell. Not what's best for Microsoft today, but how are we going to solve this problem? And there's no hurt feelings, there's no kind of resentment, it's just that's the best way to solve the problem today. And one thing I think that Bell did extremely well that helped make all of us successful was you got very specific on the goals and timelines you need to hit. And by being able to explain that vision in a very crisp and concise manner, we can take that back to Microsoft and make the ask to, Michael's point earlier, the teams that no one knows about and no one's heard about, or the people who want to work on a special project, they're there, but you just have to trigger them. And so by having a very clear set of what you're trying to do, it allowed us to go find those things and then just have honest conversations and figure out how we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And so, and kind of with that in mind, I'd like us to just all take the gloves off for a minute, and let's just be honest with each other. And I'd like to hear about, as you think about this group and the larger group working upstairs, out back, and everywhere else, and everyone back home right now in Texas, and just what has been the most challenging and rewarding experiences in having these two companies come together and become so tightly integrated?
So if I can start, I think my most challenging and most rewarding are actually the same, and it's really all about changing the conversation at Bell about what it means to be a technology company. Where should our priorities be? Where should our strategy be when it comes to digital transformation, and really shifting the paradigm beyond the aircraft, right? And it's been equal parts challenging, equal parts rewarding, because I come from a background of projects tied to software development. I come from a background of IT, and so I live and breathe digital technologies every day. And so to me, when I hear, oh, Bell wants to be a technology company, awesome. I've been operating under that mindset my entire career, right? But we have to kind of change the mindset around a traditional aerospace and defense company about what taking that next step and what that future market is going to demand from a digital perspective. And it's been so rewarding to now see the fruits of our labor, and it's manifested itself here at CES.
So my big one is the challenge, and I believe we're cracking the code on that. Is how do we take the best practices that Bell have implemented to deploy safe, reliable, powerful, powered lift aircraft for the last 50 years, but do it now at the pace that is required of a technology company without sacrificing safety, reliability, and what our customers expect from us when we were Bell Helicopter. We still have to answer that mail, but now at the tempo of a technology company. And that's been a challenge, but we've been able to pull it off so far, and it's been, when you get it right, it's really good to fall into that lockstep in that tempo.
I think I'd refer back to your exact point, Grant, of a conversation Naveed and I had every single week. And it was as simple as, hey, how do you feel about everything right now? And the answer was always, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. And that's that key, is because when you're trying to take off chunks this big and trying to move this fast for any kind of company, you're never going to move as fast as you want. But if you're close and you're just a little uncomfortable, then you're doing all right. And you just keep going.
Anyone else have any thoughts there?
All right. Well, then, yeah, we're an easy crowd. All right, so I'd kind of like Matt, if you can wrap us up a little bit. My key is, as Bell continues to grow out this vision, you think about Scott during his presentation yesterday. He just talked about the evolution from last year to this year. Sure. And so as we continue forward, the possibilities do become endless for the opportunities to tackle as you redefine flight. So how do you prioritize and focus on where to go next?
Well, I think the important thing to do is you have to manage the big picture properly, but you also have to think tactically in narrow, thin slices, right? And you have to know where those thin slices are best applied to gain the biggest value up front. And you demonstrate while never losing that big picture. So you're always growing that capability, right? Software's been doing that for a while. In an aerospace environment, the culture is a little bit different. And as we moved into CES, we had to actually custom build small aircraft, but they're still aircraft, and they have flight controls and they have fail safes, and Grant is very familiar with that. And so we had to figure out, what does that mean for an aerospace company to become a technology company? And I think that's the biggest takeaway, is focus on big picture strategy and do narrow slices, and not forget about all the lessons learned in aerospace around safety and reliability.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So that concludes our portion here.